I'm here at the Bristol Aquarium standing in the former Imax screen, as you can tell by the sheer scale of the room that I'm standing in. I'm going to be talking about the history of this cinema, as well as that of Imax, and maybe some of its afterlife. Originally invented in the 1970s, the first Imax in the UK, the first Imax in Europe in fact, was at the Bradford Media and Science Museum in 1983, but it didn't begin to get rolled out more extensively until 1999. That is when the Bfi Imax in Waterloo opened. This Imax opened in 2000 as part of We the Curious, formerly known as At Bristol, a science and educational charity. Similar sites that spawned IMAXs were also built in Glasgow and in Birmingham. This screen and the aquarium next to it are housed in a Grade 2 listed former lead works, a remnant of Bristol's industrial past. This screen here measures 19 metres by 15 metres. Don't worry, I'll throw up some imperial measurements for you. While that's not as big as the BFI IMAX in Waterloo, it is roughly around the same dimensions as that initial screen in Bradford, and certainly it's taller than 3 double-decker buses, so I don't think anyone's going to be complaining too much. As you would expect, many of the films screened here were science documentaries, but the top seller, by dint of being screened the most often, was Cyberworld 3D, a compilation of 3D animated sequences, including from Ants and The Simpsons, and yes, I saw that here. And from time to time, the IMAX did show full-length films. I saw Blue Sky's Robots here, as well as Batman Begins. Ironically, the only one of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy that wasn't filmed on IMAX cameras. Poseidon also screened at this cinema. That's why I jumped at the chance to cover this place. I have so many fond memories here. But a place like this also tells the story of IMAX's rocky history. The Bristol Imax, like many of its fellow brethren, struggled because it was a single-screen cinema showing primarily niche educational features. While full-length blockbusters were shown on occasion, this was an era of transition where that wasn't as commonplace as it is now. Maybe things would be different if it was. And while full 70mm IMAX is absolutely breathtaking to watch, it's also very heavy and cumbersome as a format and expensive to operate.
In 2007, IMAX began rolling out digital projection, which allowed multiplex screens to be retrofitted into IMAX screens. The result arguably saved the company and rapidly expanded the number of screens globally from a few hundred to over 1,000, as well as allowing more films to screen the format. But it also compromised the brand and its intent. These screens were smaller, often derisively nicknamed Limaxes, with much lower resolution, with many of these digital IMAXs just being 2K, a far cry from the roughly 12K that full 70mm IMAX film offers. Today, these types of IMAX screens are a dying breed. The IMAX in Bournemouth, despised by our locals because it blighted their beachfront view, was demolished. The one in Birmingham also closed, then reopened without IMAX licensing, but closed again in 2014. The IMAX of the Glasgow Science Centre closed during the pandemic, never to reopen because Cineworld has decided to surrender their lease. Even the BFI Imax, maybe one of the most famous cinemas in the world, was listed by 20th Century Society in 2019 as one of 10 important sites most at risk of being demolished. The Bristol Imax struggled like many of these purpose-built locations, and eventually We the Curious closed both it and the rainforest attraction Wild Walk, their two least popular attractions, in 2007. Wild Walk was converted into the aquarium that it is today, with the screen becoming an event space. And that was where the story ended. Until now.
But there's nothing the movies like more than a good comeback story, and this former IMAX is about to get one, because in May 2022 it will become the home of the Forbidden Worlds Film Festival. The festival is a celebration of Bristol's beloved video rental store and mini cinema, 20th Century Flicks, which turns 40 this year. As such, a whole host of cult-era classics and VHS staples from 1982 will be unleashed on this very screen, and temporarily it will become, once again, the biggest screen in the southwest of England.
It sort of snuck up on us. I remember reaching 30 at the video shop and that being a big deal. And because of the pandemic and stuff, the 40th one didn't really dawn on me as a thing until we were chatting about it with Ty, trying to come up with an excuse to have a film festival.
Forbidden Worlds came about because most genre film festivals happen outside of the southwest, or either in London, or you've got things like Grim Up North, which happen very far away from Bristol. So as someone who lives in Bristol, I've always wanted something like that to be in the southwest. I've known Dave and the guys at 20th Century Flicks for years. I run the Bristol Bad Film Club, and so I've often collaborated with them on a bunch of projects.
We sat down, he was talking about wanting to do that. I was playing with the idea of doing something to celebrate Flix' 40th.
And it just seemed like that perfect storm of idea and opportunity. And so we started brainstorming on how we could make it happen.
Yeah, those two ideas combined.
And Dave was like, we should definitely do one at the IMAX. I was like, we don't even know if it's working.
Because I knew it was still here. I thought it was full of water and fish from the outside, because it's like a great big round tank building.
We walked in and it looks like this. It's still in pretty decent nick.
Like a perfectly preserved IMAX cinema, which is criminally underused.
I think after being here for a few minutes, we're like, we could really make this work. We could hold the entire festival here.
They've been really nice and really helpful, and they seem really excited about it as well. And obviously we came to an agreement with sharing the proceeds.
Basically the staff being incredibly enthusiastic, that's kind of made it a reality. The Imax Projector is actually still here. I don't think it's been used for close to a decade. I think if they had to remove it, they would have to remove half the building with it to get it out. It's massive. We're going to have to bring in projection equipment to kind of fill the screen as best as possible without resorting to mortgaging our homes to fix an IMAX projector. Basically, celebrating 40 years of 20th Century Flicks was the way to go. We wanted to show films that found their audiences on VHS and celebrate them on the big screen.
We set aside evenings at the video shop. We're essentially like, yes or no. Like, would that be a fun movie to show to people?
Of course, you can't celebrate 1982 without a few big hitters, such as Poltergeist or Blade Runner.
We're just like, actually, we can't have a thing at the IMAX and not show Blade Runner there. But the rest of them are sort of kind of from the more sort of straight-to-video era of video shops.
We also didn't want to show films that are just actively available on streamers. Strange genre films from 1982 that people might remember from VHS and haven't really seen for years. It's those films that we kind of want to celebrate and show on the big screen, and those films with an audience are amazing.
Well, my favourite is Basket Case, which I suggested. So I'm very happy about that. It's one of my favourite little-known horror films.
A film like Basket Case is exactly the film where I'd go, what is that? Look at the cover, be scared, turn it over, look at the 2 or 3 photos they had that would scare me even more, read the premise and go, that sounds awesome. I'm never going to watch that. I'm 8. We all watched that and everyone loved it. And we were like, yeah, we're definitely showing that. And Saturday night, Poltergeist, followed by Basket Case, is just going to be the best. That's my favourite. I'm really looking forward to that. We've had to contact a few indie distributors, but they've been really positive. Organisations like the American Genre Film Association have been great. We've been really lucky with the amount of people who know about the festival already. And I think Mark Commode had mentioned it on his podcast the other day. That was really cool. And we've got Jim will paint it to do the poster. It's been clear for years that there is kind of that audience for something like Forbidden Worlds in Bristol. Bristol is a UNESCO city of film, so I think we're just filling a niche that needed to be filled. It was just waiting there for us, and I think we finally got around to doing it. Hopefully it'll be a success this year, and then it would be great to do it every year.
And with a different theme, probably. We won't stick to 1983 or 1984. We'll just have a bit of fun.
I hope this film festival is a start of something that brings this long dormant place back to cinematic life, especially one that carries a lot of nostalgic memories for plenty of people, and a screen this big would be an absolute shame to waste. I'm Matthew Buck, fading out.